Hi everyone, my name is Sarah. Let me just begin by telling you a little bit about myself. I'm from upstate New York, but I have lived all over the place. I've lived in Kentucky, Indiana, Florida, and also Philadelphia. After I worked and taught for a year in Philadelphia, I moved to South Korea, where I taught for 3 years. And now I currently live in China and have been here for 1 year. So I have been teaching for 5 years total. I've worked with now every age group. So I have worked with elementary, middle, high school, and now university students. And that brings me to my third point. I'm currently living and working at a university in central China. It's a little city called Zhejiang that no one has ever heard of, but it's been really great so far. Currently, I'm pursuing my master's in education with a focus in TESOL to advance my career and also to learn how to better serve my students. And a fun fact, I love to read, cook, and of course travel. I'm really excited to continue to travel in the future. When looking at my school's data analysis and data-informed decision-making, this may be influenced by the fact that I am one of 2 foreign teachers at this university. So I have not seen any apparent data collection, and what I can say about the general kind of role of data in Chinese universities is that they really only care about one thing for incoming students, and that's their score on the Gaokao, which is the giant life-altering test that every Chinese student will take and will ultimately determine which university they go to. So for me, in the English department, they use the Gaokao score to section students off into different classes and refer often to their scores and use this to determine their participation in competitions and things like that. Other than that, I don't see a lot of data collection or usage in instructional decision making in the university as a whole. It seems pretty arbitrary. They really leave teachers to their own devices. So they want students to get from point A to point B. Typically, students have to pass certain college English test or CET, and there are different levels. So the administration wants teachers to help students get from A to B, but they leave it up to us to do it, and there's not really any data collection involved. So this is an area that I'd really like to see this small university improve on. As far as my personal knowledge and usage of data, some things that I always do are formal and informal assessments. I also do pre and post tests to determine what my students knew before and how much they've learned after. The tests are, of course, being the same, having the same material. I also have a handy-dandy notebook in which I take notes regularly on students. So this happens in just day-to-day class, also during speaking tests and things like that. I take note of their linguistic difficulties, areas they've improved in, particularly sounds they have trouble pronouncing, things like this, their overall performance linguistically. Their participation, common errors that students in the class make, and also their behavior. And I use this data that I collect about my students to kind of do an ongoing needs analysis, which informs my instruction and ultimately shapes what I do for the coming days, weeks, months, and the upcoming semester. A criticism for me is that I'm unfamiliar with more standardized data collection and analysis instruments, especially in my field. So I'd really like to become more familiar with that. And how I plan to accomplish that is to conduct research regarding EFL data collection instruments. I'd like to identify useful and relevant methods that are also culturally appropriate, or see maybe I would have to modify them. After I collect data about data collection instruments, I will implement them in my classroom just one at a time to test their efficacy. And after I determine its effectiveness, I will either continue to use it or I will go back to square one, try something else, and basically cycle through and find what works best for my students. I'd also like to, and I plan to, connect with my other fellow teachers to see how they collect data and how they use it to inform their instruction, especially because the vast majority of my coworkers are Chinese, which means perhaps they have some different and unique or interesting ways that they collect data for their students. And that is all for me. I'm really looking forward to this class, and I look forward to sharing ideas with all of you and learning together. Thank you.